750 here, Big 550 KTRS. Let's check in with Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst, the best in the business. Good morning, Stephen.
Hey, pal.
Let's start with Hillary Clinton. It looks like Colin Powell is pushing back against the claim that, hey, we did the email thing just the way Colin Powell did. Don't blame us. Looks like he doesn't like that answer.
It does look like he doesn't like the answer, and for good reason. This is just one more example of Hillary Clinton trying to not take responsibility for her own problems. Sure, she said over and over again, I made a mistake, but by using these private email servers. But she also keeps trying to blame others and soften the responsibility. And this is her single biggest problem, McGraw. The most important word in American politics is always trust. And the polls have always showed, long showed, that voters have their severe doubts about her honesty and trustworthiness. And, you know, but this is the way the Clintons have operated their entire time in public life for a generation now. They keep feeding this notion that they're not quite playing by the rules. They don't quite play straight with the voters. It happened with the Clinton Foundation, which has been under a lot of fire for taking donations from foreign sources who might be seeking influence with the Secretary of State or the potential president. So they say over the weekend, well, we're no longer going to accept foreign donations if she's elected president. Why didn't they say we're going to stop taking foreign donations tomorrow? Why didn't they even say, as a lot of Democrats would like them to say, we're going to close down the foundation if it causes any possible shadow of doubt about her honesty and directness? But no, they always seem to try to play it slickly. Bill Clinton earned the nickname Slick Willie for a reason, and that continues to be a problem for both Clintons.
Not only that, so you have to shut it down if she becomes president, but if she's Secretary of State, you don't have to shut it down. I mean, that they have opened themselves up to a whole lot of criticism by saying that over the weekend.
Absolutely, and they do this all the time. You know, the whole way they handled the email scandal, you know, changing their stories over and over again. And look, we've discussed many times that stories in politics resonate when they play into beliefs and frameworks that people already have. And when you are dealing with this, your single biggest political problem for Hillary Clinton has always been this question of honesty and trustworthiness, where Democratic primaries, you know, people preferred Sanders on that question by 7-8 to 1. If you know you have that problem, why do you keep feeding it? Why do you keep making these mistakes? You got to believe that, you know, one other example of this, you know, when she knew she was always going to run for president, and yet she took these enormous speaking fees from corporate and Wall Street interests. She had to know that was going to become an issue in the campaign. She had to know that this was going to be used against her by her opponents, and yet she continued to do it, whether it was out of greed or whatever. So this is a very consistent pattern over a long period of time, and it's the single biggest reason why Donald Trump has some hope of winning this election still. Because if Hillary Clinton were a better candidate, if people had more confidence in her trustworthiness, this election would be over before it even started.
Yeah, now with that being said, now over the weekend, some stories floated that Donald Trump is changing his message on immigration and or illegal immigrants in this country. What do you make of that story?
Yeah, well, what I make of it is that inside the campaign, his new advisors, particularly Kellyanne Conway, who's a very experienced and data-driven pollster, is looking at the numbers and is finally telling them the truth. And the truth is that no matter how big your rallies and no matter how loud the crowds and no matter how many people yell, build a wall or lock her up, it's not nearly enough to win the election. It might have won you the primaries, but it's not enough to win a general election. And she is looking at two key voter groups. One are Hispanics, who are very important in many swing states, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, who have been deeply alienated by his rhetoric about Mexicans being rapists and building a wall and keeping out all Muslims. But also, they're very worried about another group, which are better educated white women who have traditionally voted Republican, and many of them live in the suburbs of key states like Philadelphia, key cities like Philadelphia, Cleveland, Orlando, Florida. And the polls have shown that this group, which voted for Romney in the last election, are drifting very solidly to Clinton. And this softer, gentler Donald Trump is the single biggest goal there, is to try to send a message to these women, McGraw, that he's not the hardline right-wing crazy some of them think he is, but that's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah, the Rubiks Cube going from the primaries to the general election, the only reason why he was nominated was because he was going to throw everybody out, because he was going to build a wall. Now, how can he actually go back on that now?
Well, you have three risks here. One is that your core constituents say, wait, we're being betrayed. I thought he was really the hardliner. We want him to be on this issue. Secondly, you get accused of being a flip-flopper, which raises the questions, are you really trustworthy and honest? And third, it's not as if all of these hardline things he said for a year are going to disappear, that somehow he can go up and make a speech on Thursday and erase the memory here, because that's all on videotape. And the Clintons have already started running a whole series of ads throwing Donald Trump's most extreme and outrageous statements back in his face. They've got millions and millions of dollars to keep the old Trump very much front and center in the minds of voters. So no matter how much Donald Trump tries to pivot now, no matter how much he tries to somehow soften his image, the Democrats have a great deal of money they're going to put behind ad campaigns to remind people of all of those other things Trump has been saying for the last year.
Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst, the best in the business. Have a good week, Stephen. Thanks.
Okay, my friend.
7:57, Big 550.